Hey folks, Dr. Pete Hilgartner, Leesburg, Virginia again, and I want to do a follow-on to my initial video where we talked about the wellness paradigm, and I want to give you a little more detail on what we mean by the wellness paradigm and what I call the 7 essential dynamics to health. This is how you go from a state of degeneration and disease and regenerate your body to bring you back up to a state of adaptation. Okay, so to review very quickly, we've got our genome, our genetics, that we got half from mom, half from dad. And again, you and I were all taught that you get half from mom, half from dad, you're pretty well screwed, so why worry about things? You're going to get what you get. Well, we know that with modern understanding of genetics and epigenetics, that's false. So it's really the interaction of our genetics with life. And I defined our stressors of life as physical, emotional, chemical, spiritual. I've got a whole book where I break those down, but just understand that you have physical, chemical, emotional, spiritual stressors in life that are causing you to either adapt, get bigger, faster, stronger, smarter relative to your environment. That means you're up-regulating your genetic potential, or it causes you to compensate. And again, a compensation is not adaptation. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And the more you compensate, the less adaptable you are. The more you're going to compensate, the less adaptable, and so on, until, ouch, something happens. You got a disease, you got an affliction, an infection, a tumor, whatever. Okay, your symptoms are always a byproduct of this process of compensation upon compensation. Okay, and I try to get people to understand that really, your body never does anything wrong. It does the exact right thing at that moment relative to the environment it finds itself in. There's an innate intelligence that's initiated at that point of conception that says, hey, if I cut myself, I don't have to think about all those little white blood cells going in and debriding it and building the scaffolding to repair it. It happens. There's an innate intelligence that courses through your body, okay? People call it the universal intelligence. You could call it soul, chi, Tao, prana. I don't really care what you want to call it. But there's an energetic thing that carries information that causes all this to happen. So your body never really does anything wrong. It does the exact right thing in response to the environment it finds itself in. And again, that response is either an adaptation, because the body's a stimulus response mechanism. It always wants to express its optimal trajectory, or you exceed the threshold of adaptation and it's going to compensate. And the funny thing about compensations is it's sneaky. It's these little things over time that starts to sort of degrade the system. Okay? So, I also talked in the last segment how you need to detoxify or eliminate noxious stimuli from this environment and from the physical body to allow those genes to express optimally. So detoxification, sufficiency of needs. Most people talk about and they think about nutrition in particular as getting rid of deficiencies. Well, yeah, I want to get rid of deficiencies, but really I want to start by providing sufficiencies of needs. And sufficiency of needs can also be in the context of physical, emotional, chemical, and spiritual needs. Okay? Remember, stress is not bad. Your body never gets stronger without stressing it a little bit. It never gets smarter without stressing it. So these things that kind of temper the steel are good, but I can also do too much. So I always tell my patients that the Goldilocks story is actually very applicable to what we're doing. Okay, too much is too much, too little is too little, and it's just right. Because your genetics, relative to your environment, has a just right switch. Okay? So, communication, what I'm talking about there is nothing happens in your body without your brain either coordinating or controlling or getting feedback from that. Okay? So the brain and the nervous system are really the foundation to your control system. It's a feedback loop and it's a stimulus response mechanism. So it's always trying to see how is it responding to its environment, reading the environment so it can respond appropriately, because again, the body never does anything wrong. It does the exact right thing it needs to at that time in order to, at the very least, survive. Okay? Quick overview of the last time. Now, what we're talking about for this one is the 7 essential dynamics to health. When you think about this, is wherever you are in your state of health, if you're trying to restore optimal genetic expression, which is really a state of wellness, okay, you need to take into consideration these 7 things. One is your genetics. All right? We'll do a whole segment just on genetics, but real quickly, I'm talking about the context of epigenetics. What is the effect of the physical, chemical, emotional, spiritual environment having on your genetic expression? Is it upregulating your genetics? Is it upregulating your potential, or is it downregulating it? Okay? So genetics is huge. Structure. My training as a chiropractor has me very proficient in the conversation of structure and how you relate to your environment in terms of gravity, posture, your ability to move smoothly, in balance, muscles firing in the proper sequence, things like that. Okay, but structure is going to dictate how well your body and your brain perceive its ability to deal with the environment. Okay, so very simple fact is when you're in a state of optimal posture, not ramrod straight, okay, but optimal posture, and we'll define that in another segment. When you're in a state of optimal posture, you have minimal interference on the communication network of your brain and your nervous system. Your organ systems are able to communicate fully to the brain and right back. It's like a computer. If there's garbage coming in with a bunch of static on the phone lines, it's going to create more static coming out. Okay? So your structure is essential there. The next step is nutrition. We have to look at nutrition. And when I'm talking about nutrition, we're talking about it in the context of your genetics and your environment. Yes, there are tons of books out there talking about nutrition, and this is the perfect diet, and this is the optimal diet, and blah, blah, blah. Well, a lot of them have a lot of good information. I found most of them are a little bit incomplete, or horribly incomplete in some cases. But when we look at it in the context of epigenetics, your genome relative to your environment, now we can start getting a little more clear insight. And again, all of these sciences are going to continue to advance. What we're doing 200 years from now will be completely different from what we did now, because what we're doing now is more advanced from 200 years ago. Okay? So understand that these are dynamics. That's why I call them the Essential 7 Dynamics. But these are the top things you need to kind of be looking at, and you need to look at all of them, not some of them, because the body works as a single synchronized functional unit. So if you're thinking you're going to cure everything with nutrition, I'm telling you, you're going to find limitations to your expression of genetic potential. Now, when you combine that with structure, or then you go into exercise, and we start looking at optimal exercise for you. Problem is, people think of exercise, they think of bodybuilding or weight training or working out like a pro athlete or an Olympic athlete. I'm just talking about your body heals through movement. So if you're not doing something to move every day in a synchronous manner, most of the movements that we do are sitting down to eat, driving in a car, going to work, hanging out in front of the TV, and we're in this posture, and then we wonder why we're wandering around like this, and we got headaches and joint pain, and we feel like crap, and we got horrible digestion, okay? But exercise is synchronous movement relative to how your body should relate to your environment, okay? So again, that's a whole nother topic. Actually, you can have a whole degree on that, all right? Then the other piece behind that is rest. Rest. We give that a lot of lip service in our culture because we are so addicted to velocity. But the fact is, the only time that you heal is when you sleep. The only time that you heal is when you sleep. A time to sleep is a time to heal. The anesthesiologists love that saying, all right? And it's absolutely true. But don't think of rest as just sleeping. Think of rest as also downtime, time to take a vacation, just time to power down a little bit. And when I say power down, I'm not talking about watching some sci-fi movie or shoot-'em-up movie or adventure movie. Your body's responding to all those inputs into your brain, but having downtime, where you just sort of apply the brakes, put the emergency brake on and park, okay? And now some people just park too much, but they're in front of a computer, all right? Or a TV, or a Game Boy, or whatever, okay? But rest is essential. So that's one of the essential dynamics to real health. Attitude. Attitude. There's so much literature out there talking about how your attitude has a direct effect on your physiological expression, meaning your genetic expression, all right? So the question with attitude, are you a person that's always leaning into life, or are you a person that's always kind of life is happening to you, you're leaning away? Are you a person that's always finding problems, or are you a person who's always finding solutions? That mindset, that's the attitude. I'm not talking about Pollyannic, you know, I'm going to oh, it's, you know, raining, so it's liquid sunshine. But I am talking about, are you a victim or are you a victor? Are you feeling like life happens to you, or are you feeling like you make life happen? Okay? That has a direct effect on your physiology. Okay? And then the final thing is energetics. Now, when I use this one, a lot of times in my class or with my patients, I get a lot of eye rolling, and people are like, oh, okay, doc, you're getting way out there into woo-woo land. No, I'm not. I'm applying quantum theory to cellular biology. It's all physics, okay? Think about it this way. If you're upbeat and you're spry and you're feeling good, how does your body tend to feel? Okay? You're vital, you're vibrant, there's a lot of energy. Have you ever been in that state and you walk into a room and everyone's just kind of depressed and they're hanging out and they're miserable? Look at their physiology, look at their body, feel the energy around them. So if you're 70% water, let's solidify water, let's make it ice. And at the same time, let's have a bucket over here that's steaming and is sending the steam up into the air. What's the difference? It's the same molecules. 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen, right? So it's H2O, it's water. But the difference is one is resonating at a very slow frequency, the other one's at a very high frequency. One's got a lot of vitality to it, the other one's just it's a lot of potential energy, but it's not really doing much, okay? So think of it in this context. The farther downhill you go here, the lower your energetics become. If you've ever been in chronic pain, you understand what I'm talking about. It's very hard to get all kind of riled up and excited about stuff when you're always in pain, okay? But think about it this way. As I take you back upstream here, what do you think happens to your energetic potential? What happens to your state of vitality? What happens to your physiology? Okay, so these are the 7 essential dynamics to health, to real health. This is how you restore balance to that ecosystem you call your body. Because remember, your ecosystem is always relating to a greater ecosystem. And that's physical, emotional, chemical, spiritual stressors having an effect, either upregulating, adapting, positive, or downregulating, negative, okay, breaking down, to your genetic potential, okay? So genetics, structure, nutrition, exercise, rest, attitude, and energetics. And if you really want to achieve your optimal state of true wellness, you have to do something in all 7 of those. So I always tell people it's not about making great big steps forward, but you know what? If every single day I improve by 1% of 1% on each one of these dynamics, I'm heading that way. My genetics are going to love that. You're going to feel better. Okay? So I hope you found this interesting. You can find us online, hilgartnerhealth.com. We've got a lot more information to share with you. But I'm going to try to break these down into a little bit more detail as we go. And I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks.